What's up, guys? Dave from betsum.com. Had a big score this past week, which was week 15 in the NFL. So I wanted to go over the lineup and where my head was at with it, some of the things that worked for me, some of the things that didn't, and also go over a few of my picks for week 16. So getting into this lineup, I got a fifth in the Wildcat 1.4 million guaranteed for 25,000. It had about 4,000 runners and 1,000 people paid, and it was 150,000 up top, 100,000 a second, 50,000 a third, 30,000 a fourth, and I got fifth for 25,000. So you can see I was less than a point behind fourth place for another money jump, about 5 points behind third. So this was my lineup. Drew Brees to Brandon Cooks was what really got me there. They were both under-owned. 2.9% for Brees, 3.1% for Cooks, as they were against the number one pass defense at Arizona, and they had both been quiet, especially Cooks, but Brees as well, for the past few weeks. So it was just a basic theory of picking a good player, like a matchup-proof stud, with a tough matchup that hopefully people would fade and hopefully they would go off, and they did in this case. So when it works well, and it happened to work this week. I also had Devontae Freeman, who I feel like everyone had for good reason. I was actually surprised he was only 20% owned. I thought he'd be more just because they were home against the Niners. So that worked out really well. I faded David Johnson and Le'Veon Bell in place of some cheaper running backs, and it seemed to work out well. Where it didn't work out for me was I picked Ezekiel Elliott, where I could have figured out how to put McCoy in there instead, who had 36 or 37, and that would have gotten me that third place. And I could have put ALDRICK Robinson in place of Jeremy Curley, who I liked better, but due to Sanu's game time decision to play, I figured Curley might be the better option. So he got 10 less points than Robinson, so that could have done it for me too. But I picked Ezekiel over McCoy, one, because it was easier to fit players like Mike Wallace and Jeremy Curley in, but two, because I thought he'd be less owned than McCoy, which was accurate. But McCoy did score more. So I think what I take from this is that sometimes you want to go against the grain, but not in every spot, just in a few, because you don't want to go too far the other way, because that's just as bad. So you want to balance there, I guess. So I missed on wide receivers. Jeremy Curley and Mike Wallace just didn't produce. I thought Mike Wallace was a great price at 4,800, but he just didn't really get any looks from Flacco. Lamar Miller didn't do too well, and the Texans D really didn't do too well. Kyle Rudolph really helped me out with 17.7. He was a great price. And so that was pretty much the lineup and my thinking behind it. So while we're here, let's go to week 16 and check out some of the plays that I like from there. So word of warning, I haven't had two good weeks in a row yet, but for the sake of this video, I'm going to let you know who I like anyway. I think that Drew Brees, Matt Ryan, Andrew Luck, Rivers, and Cam Newton and Winston will all be pretty split at like 10% to 15% owned, something like that. They'll be the majority of the quarterbacks taken this week. Out of all those guys, if I were to pick one, I prefer Luck. I think he'll be probably one of the lower owned, and I think that Oakland should get ahead that game, maybe by 10 or 14 points, and I think they're going to actually attack with the run and force Luck and the Colts to play catch-up. So riding with that theory, and I believe he'll be more under-owned, and he has just as much upside, if not more, than most of these guys. I'm going to pick Luck for this lineup and make the obvious stack with T.Y. Hilton. I don't think you can risk going anyone else from the Colts at the moment. T.Y. coming off a bad game, but he had two monsters before that. So his price went up a little, but he might be faded just due to that bad game, but probably not. But I still like that stack a lot. And going with that same theory, I would pick Latavius Murray as a decent mid-range running back. I think that the Raiders have gone towards Murray a lot more in the second half of the season, and Derek Carr has been throwing a lot less yards and touchdowns. So I think against Indianapolis's defense, Murray should have a great game, and also they're going to want to keep Luck off the field So I think they're going to want to try and chew up as much clock as possible. So seeing as that's how I'm hoping the game transpires, those are my first 3 picks. As far as other running backs that I like, I'm going to fade McCoy for the most part this week. I think that he's going to be kind of the more owned guy, and at this price, he needs to get you about 36 to 40, and I just think that he's going to do that less times than, or I think that he won't do it more times than he will. So he's only done that once this season anyway. So I'm going to fade him, and I actually don't mind David Johnson this week just because I think that he'll turn into more of a receiver when they're down. Even though he's against the first-ranked defense at Seattle, he might get 10 catches for 100 yards, and he'll probably be pretty under-owned, and 9K is a lot better than 11K. But I think there's so many good mid-range running backs. I'm sure a lot of people will be all over him this week, but there's so many to pick from between Gurley, whose price is a little too high, $6,500. He was $4,500 last week, so that's a big price jump. But he is at home against the Niners. Jordan Howard's at home against Washington. He's been playing pretty well lately. Lamar Miller's questionable, but he's home versus Cincinnati. Blunt home versus the Jets. So as you can see, there's just a ton of great mid-range running backs. So in this lineup, I like Blunt at home against the Jets. And although I don't like stacking running back with defense all the time because I think they can counteract each other sometimes, I will do it here against the Jets, who Miami really tore up last week, and I think New England at home should be able to do similar things and then run Blunt down their throat on offense. So some of the other wide receivers I like, I'm not going to really chase Cooks' points from last week, but I like Tyrell Williams after a bad week against Cleveland's defense. So I think that this should be a bounce-back week for Rivers and Tyrell Williams. He's been kind of fading a little bit, but he still is their number one, and it still is Phillip Rivers, and now they're against one of the worst defenses in the league. They should be able to handle that. So while his price is about $1,000 or $700 lower than it should be, I'll definitely buy him and hope that some people are looking the other way on him. For a cheap receiver play, Aldrick Robinson will probably be pretty popular after the week he had last week at $4,100, but I still think it's great value. Julio might play, so if he does, you might want to not load up on Aldrick lineups, but he is $4,100. He had 18 points. He's had 6 targets and 5 targets, playing in a high total game with Matt Ryan as his quarterback. Even if Julio goes, it might not be a bad spot to play him at $4,100. He was obviously a really good deep threat for them last game. So he'll be a good play at $4,100. At tight end, I do like Greg Olsen. He's questionable, but I think he's going to play. But he's having his elbow examined, and we'll see how that turns out. But he's my top pick this week. I don't really like Kyle Rudolph his matchup's great, and he's been playing great, but his price is $5K now, which means he needs to get 20 points plus, and I don't think he's done that this season once. Or he's done it one time in week 3. So the price is a little high for him. Not a bad pick with that matchup. Someone you can go cheap, Ryan Griffin, if Fedorowicz doesn't go, was pretty good last week, and Savage seems to be hucking the ball. Also, Dion Sims on Miami. He has had 4 pretty decent weeks in a row, and his price has still stayed the same. So he's had 15 points, 7 points, 9 points, and 19 points the past 4 weeks. He's still $2,600, and he's a red zone threat for Miami. And ever since Cameron Jordan got injured, he's picked up a lot of production and is playing better than Jordan was. As far as my flex spot in this lineup, I like Edelman and I like Amari Cooper, but I wouldn't go them in this lineup just because I have Blunt and Murray, and I don't want to share too many points. I will go Todd Gurley or Jordan Howard here, and I might go Devontae Freeman too if I don't want to leave too much money on the board. I do like him again this week. He's got a great matchup. I think that they might try and ride him out one more game, but we'll see. So that's my Week 15 lineup review and my picks for Week 16. If you guys like these videos and want more content like this, just click like, subscribe, or comment, and that way I know to produce more of it. I'd like to get into the NBA and produce daily videos for other sports as well. So until then, good luck, guys.